So $900 per month in the central zone or $565 in the outer zone. That fee essentially offsets the lost revenue that TPA would otherwise get from a vehicle using the space. So we have worked very closely with the Toronto Parking Authority to arrive at these numbers. And so the fee that the operator would pay to opt to use that space would essentially go directly to the TPA. In terms of how these fees would be implemented, any new applicant would be required to pay the fees when they take effect. For existing operators, we are proposing a very long 15-year phase-in so that the impact on any increase would be minimal. There will be some decreases, so North York, for example, which currently has the highest rates, $114 per square meter, they would benefit from an immediate discount, a significant discount. Other smaller discounts will also take effect. Okay, and my last slide is related to application fees, and sometimes these are called user fees. The city's policy is that a user fee or an application fee is set at a rate which covers the cost to provide that city service. The current user fees haven't been reviewed comprehensively since amalgamation, so they are outdated, and the city currently isn't recovering the cost to provide this program. The fee that you see in front of you is essentially a fee that has been set to recover the costs of the program. It's significantly smaller for a small cafe and a marketing display because that's a much more streamlined process with much less work involved. And then finally, second to last, there is a proposed fee for tree planting. There is currently a fee for tree planting in the Toronto bylaw. It's $3,000. The proposed fee is less than half of that. The fee, again, it's a one-time fee that would be paid at the time of making a new application. So it's not a fee that would apply to existing operators. And of those new applicants, you would only pay it once your application has been reviewed. And there's some other criteria that would kick in as well to determine whether or not you'd be required to pay for it. Very high level, though. Essentially, if you think of it like this, if it's a grassy boulevard or a turf boulevard, and the proposal is to put a cafe there where you're potentially losing the ability, or the city's losing the ability to plant a tree there, the idea is that that's what the fee would go towards. And the fee actually wouldn't go towards putting a tree at that location. It would go to urban forestry, a reserve fund that they would use to plant trees throughout the city to support other related objectives. This is the last slide. I would just like to wrap up and draw your attention to the project website. All the materials we've talked through today are accessible at this website, in addition to the survey and feedback form, which we have in hard copy. You can also find it online there and submit it there. So with that, I'd like to finish and just open it up to the Q&A. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, it might be if you want to raise your hand and if you have access to a mic, I'll just keep a list of speakers. So yeah, the gentleman right there, and I'll get in the back. I'll get you in just a moment, please. Yep.
I think you guys have gotten a lot right with this, so I want to commend your teams. This is way better than last time. The one thing I do want to touch on is the application fee. I'd like a further breakdown on that. $1,330 seems like a little bit of an excessive amount. That's like 25 hours of staff time for top paid staff at the city. So if we could have a breakdown of that, it would be much appreciated.
Sure, I can provide a high-level breakdown of that, and thank you. I appreciate the question. Certainly, I recognize the proposed application fee is a lot more than what it is currently, although, as I did say just previously, the application fee that's currently in effect has not been reviewed comprehensively in probably more than 20 years, so it's quite outdated. And again, the role of the user fee or the application fee is to fully recover the cost of the city to provide the service. So thinking about what that process is and what the roles are, what's the application, what are the steps in an application process. So it covers the cost of anyone involved in receiving an application, processing the application, processing the fees, circulating the application to other divisions, receiving comments back from other divisions and utilities, processing the notification of local residents. In addition, there's a significant role of staff to go out and do site surveys and inspections to verify that the application documents actually reflect what's on the ground. Those are some of the hard kind of requirements or steps that are involved. In addition, the user fee also covers so-called soft things such as IT, like the computer services and or the building where the staff are housed, the vehicle that the people use to go out and do the site visits, and those sorts of things. So all of those are kind of factored in on an hourly basis. And then also, in addition, there are other roles that management and supervisors play. So when an application is appealed to community council, there's a lot of staff time involved to write a report and to go and spend time at community council and answer any questions in that forum.
So with so many variables factored in here, how could we get a breakdown of how we came to these numbers? Because I do agree there's a lot involved if we're doing full cost recovery. I still think it's a little bit excessive from my very basic math.
Sure.
So if we could get a full cost breakdown, that would be appreciated. Because
Yeah.
it does seem like a lot.
Sure. So in the final report that goes to council and committee, that breakdown will be in there. And I did neglect to mention one additional service that's provided through this proposed application fee. The proposed application fee does include funding for one additional staff person in the process, and that person will primarily play a significant role in reviewing the application with a lens focused on the pedestrian clearway. So currently that's been identified as something that's a little bit of a gap in the process, and we think there's a lot of value in adding that extra lens to the application process. So that proposed application fee will include funds for one additional staff. And like I said, the full breakdown of that will be included in the final staff report.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, I've just got a question waiting, and certainly if there's time, we can come back. Okay, next question or comment, please.
Fall into two of your categories. I'm both a senior and a person with a disability. Recently, I had a chat with my doctor who suggested, John, it would be useful if you became a bit more active. I said, that sounds like an all right idea. He said, what about walking? And I said, not a chance. And he was surprised at why I was so adamant. I said, it's very simple. Toronto is not a pedestrian-friendly city. For me as a blind person, the idea of going for a walk is not a pleasant idea. It's a stressful idea. Because of the existing quantity of what I call sidewalk clutter that's already there, bike racks in places I may not expect, planters that are encased in cement like the ones on St. George Street north of College, sidewalks that have potholes in them, and the amount of noise either at Dundas and Yonge or around various construction sites. That's only to name a few. The list is longer than that, I assure you. And so, thus, I am concerned about there's a fair amount in what you're proposing that I support, harmonizing the various bylaws. I'm prepared to welcome Scarborough to join the rest of us. It's all right with me. I do believe that any patios should be fenced without exception. There's any with any size. And I say that for two reasons. As a patron, I prefer to be bothered less by pedestrians on the sidewalk, and as a pedestrian, I want to be able to walk easily. So I think they need to be fenced for both reasons. The notion of distance, 2.1 meters, nothing less, no exceptions. More would be better, but absolutely no exceptions, none. I think you have a difficult task ahead trying to put all three of your principles into play, because I think those three principles have some conflicts in them. It's difficult to be as flexible as business wants and to create and preserve a pedestrian-friendly city. I'm going to come down on the side of pedestrians. We need a city where walking is an easier and more attractive option than it is at present. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question or comment?
Good afternoon. Andrew Horbury. I'm president of the Church Wellesley Neighbourhood Association. And I have 4 quick questions. One is, I'm confused. Does the marketing displays refer only to marketing displays associated with cafes?
No, sorry. The small frontage configuration is either for a cafe, or the small frontage could also be for a marketing display. They're not combined in any way.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. In that case, I do have a point to raise, which is the scourge of advertising A-boards throughout the downtown core, especially for new developments. And I'm wondering how this is to be enforced, because we see this every year. These pop up, we remove them, we residents remove them, and trying to get MLS to actually take action on this proves to be very, very difficult. So I'd be grateful if we could make some acknowledgement or reference to how this is going to be enforced. I don't know whether you have any comeback on that straight away.
Kevin, do you want to take that one? We do have a representative from enforcement here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kevin Lurker. I'm one of the supervisors with the licensing enforcement team downtown. Enforcement such as the A-frame boards done on a complaint basis. My colleagues in our investigation services department, which is an offshoot of MLS, they deal with the A-frames. They issue the permits to it. And they do remove them on a complaint basis, where they keep them for a certain period of time where the owner of that board has time to claim it. And fines can be issued to them. I believe the ticket is upwards of $300, but it's not something they go looking for proactively. It's done on a complaint basis. So by calling 311 and filing a complaint with them, a file will be created and an officer will go out and take a look into it.
Okay. Thanks. My response to that is that I hear that process. I don't see it being enforced rigorously. And we spend a lot of time trying to clear up this very, very severe constriction of public sidewalks on a regular basis. But thank you for reinforcing the process. We'll be reinforcing that with our members. My second question is, I noticed that you intend to alert BIAs to applications. We're very lucky to have a great working relationship with our local BIA, the Church Wellesley Village BIA. I wonder if you would consider also alerting neighbourhood associations, because we quite often get complaints or questions from our residents, and although we'd like to have lockstep with our BIA, sometimes that just doesn't happen. I'd hope that that would be an easy thing to do. My third question relates to the alignment of the proposed fee zones. And I just wonder whether there's any reason why you wouldn't ally the core fee zone with TO core?
So this proposed fee zone does align exactly with the TO core boundary.
Great.
However, I would emphasize again, it's a zone that's up for discussion. So if anyone has any suggested alternatives or amendments, we'd be welcome to those as well.
Thank you. And my final question relates to the proposed timeline for the fees. And I see that you're proposing locking them to 2033, which seems like a heck of a long time for a lot of economic uncertainty, inflation, changes in economic circumstance. I'm wondering why you've decided to lock it that far forward.
Excellent question. So about 5 or 6 months ago, we had a meeting in this room with the existing permit holders, and we presented very different fees, significantly higher, and a much shorter phased-in time proposed for the fees. And there was a lot of we got a lot of feedback from that process. Firstly, that the fees were too high, and secondly, that we were proposing to implement them in too short a period. And the feedback we got from that was across the board. It was from residents, businesses, as well as elected officials. So it was very consistent. So in hearing that feedback, we reevaluated the approach firstly with the valuation of the proposed fees as they reflect the value of the space on the sidewalk. So we lowered them, giving a much greater reflection to the public amenity that comes through the program. And then we extended the phase-in period to 15 years. And yes, granted, 15 years is a very long time, so I appreciate your comment. But the idea is really to provide long-term certainty and stability and minimize the impact to the existing permit holders.
And I think all of us would appreciate certainty going forward. I guess my point here would be that the city already finds itself in a position where it's difficult to run basic city services on the income it receives. So it seems to be handicapping itself some way into the future by insisting on that long a period of lock.
Do you want to be clearer? Is there something you're trying to say?
I would say a shorter period would seem to be appropriate and give some certainty going forward, I understand, to business owners, but also give the city an opportunity to revise, unlike the situation you're facing right now, where they haven't been revised for 20 years, and you're seeing the economic impact of that. The city has got to raise more funds in different ways, and this seems to be a way that it might raise funds within the next 10 years, say.
Sure. I appreciate the comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for those questions. I just want to welcome folks to continue to provide questions and answers. Please feel free to introduce yourself, and also, if you're representing any organization, let us know. Sir, at the front, please.
Hello. Can you hear me? I represent nobody.
Welcome.
Thank you. Oh, right. Okay. Two things. I live in the distillery. Hey. And I noticed this is in the proposed central zone, and then I also noticed street characteristics. Well, it's a foot street area. There are no cars allowed there at all, and it doesn't really seem to fit into your standard of classification of streets. So I was at a meeting last night, and there is a proposal for a, 50-odd story new skyscraper going up in the distillery area, and what they call a ribbon building going from Parliament to Cherry along by the railway line. Cafés, etc., all proposed there, all done wonderfully, nice presentation by the architects. And so and they have music all night long now. So I was just wondering if the distillery will come into your proposed street characteristics.
That's a very good question, and as I mentioned at the start, the focus of this exercise and this project is on cafes and marketing displays located on public property, so the public sidewalk or the public boulevard, and the distillery district, although it's very, easily accessible by the public, it is actually owned privately. So the regulations for patios on private property are different. They fall under the zoning bylaw in that instance, and other licensing requirements. So this information we've presented today would not apply to patios located on private property.
Okay, thank you. So that means then it doesn't really fall into the central zone. It should be, a mark should not really.
So there are many cafes and patios on rooftops, backyards, that sort of thing that are in the zones, but they're regulated by other means. So the city wouldn't charge a fee, for example, for a patio that's on private property because it's not the city's property to charge a fee for. And similarly, the regulations for those are more governed by the zoning bylaw than this municipal code bylaw that we're talking about today. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, yeah, the gentleman in the white shirt, yeah.
Janet, this one's for you. Is there a place where we can go to see the more detailed design guidelines for the patios? I know we've seen them through presentations, but I would like to read through them a bit more.
I think our intention would be to make it available definitely when we report back, and we're in the midst of making some tweaks to it to align it with these latest sort of revised directions that we have that we've presented today. So definitely we can make that available, and we'll likely post it as well. Because they're going to be aligned essentially with all of the information that we've been presented, we probably won't provide additional consultation. It's also something it's more of a living document that's supportive of these directions, so we can definitely modify it as we go as well. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from, oh, that's super.
Good afternoon. Marcus Little. I'm on the board of the St. Lawrence Neighborhood Association, and I've been involved in this patio issue before these consultations began. So we're quite aware of it. I have a couple of comments. St. Lawrence Neighborhood Association was incorporated in 1984, and the city knows us very well. And therefore, it's quite easy to put us on a list and inform us. Now, Pam is pretty good. She gets it out to us. But if a notice of a new patio goes to the BIA, it should go to the neighborhood association. Yes, you'll have a problem in parts of the city where a new neighborhood association is being formed, or an association that is sort of hit and miss, and you might not have contact. But the councillor's office would be the backup. But I think that we're equal to the BIA, and we're as well known. We predate the BIA in the St. Lawrence neighborhood. So I think that we should be there. When you're looking at the greater widths in downtown, I like the list, but the Esplanade should be a candidate for that as well. On the area of noise, we support the idea of the 11:30 p.m. shutdown of music. I like Cressy's move to even shut down the patio at 11 o'clock at night, Monday through Thursday, and allow it to run until 1 o'clock on Friday and Saturday. Recognizing that the St. Lawrence neighborhood, we don't have any homes. We have tall buildings. A lot of them are condos. We have a lot of old warehouses. So in one case on the Esplanade, we have a patio associated with a 4-story warehouse, and it operates till 2 in the morning, or 1 or 2 in the morning. Down the street, we have a new condo that was built, and a license was given to the patio to operate until 1 a.m. And we have a vertical neighbor to that patio that is literally 1 story above that patio. So we're equivalent to what Councillor Fletcher has in her award, is like she has a vertical flanking residences. We have vertical. So she has horizontal, we have the vertical. And we have to be thinking about that as you're going forward. There has to be a compromise on that, on the noise. And when you get a new building formed, and I'll give you an example, I've got 88 Scott Street, 50 stories at Scott and Wellington. Commercial have started to move into the lower floors, but we haven't got any of the residents in. But we could have we could have a restaurant or a pub in the commercial area and applying for a patio usage. And there's no resident there to comment on it. That's why the St. Lawrence Neighborhood Association wants to be informed of these so that we can take the action for future residents. And last, on the governance issue, you could consider the, what is that? I don't know, it's the bylaw the bylaw review agency or something, so that if some patio isn't operating, they should be able to refer that to that body. So it's taken away from the councillors and it's independent of the bureaucracy. So you could consider that. I know we're hitting a bunch of topics, but I kind of like the way this is going. As I say, I've been here at this, and David Crawford's been working with me for many years on this in our downtown area. And it all started because patios would shut down and the snow would land, and we'd have the sidewalk blocked with a patio fence and snow, and people couldn't get by. And that's where I got involved, that's where David got involved, and we've been at it, and we support what's being done. We think the clear way is what's absolutely necessary. Back to you.
Thanks. Any other comments, questions? Okay. I think I'm going to turn it back to Hamish and Janet.
So we are here until 4 o'clock for another half hour, so unless anyone else has any questions, I think we can move into just a breakout if anyone wants to have specific one-on-one questions. I'd also point out the staff from Urban Forestry here if anyone wants to talk about issues related to trees. Obviously, Janet and myself are here as well, so as well as Fiona from Pedestrian Projects, and we have other staff from business licensing and regulatory services as well.
And I guess if I could just add, if you didn't have a chance to sign in and you did because you want to make sure that you receive updates, we have a sign-in sheet, I think, that's still available at the front door by me.
A final reminder, again, please do go onto the website and take a look at this feedback form. It gives you a further opportunity to provide focused comments on the issues we talked about today. So I'll just bring it up. It's www.toronto.ca/MLS. Have your say. Thanks again, everybody.